An abandoned girl took a job. The town warned her about the brutal bikers in their fortress of steel and grease. But inside, she found something terrifying and beautiful. A dangerous offer would change everything. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The rain fell like nails on the roof of her rusty car. Ilara Quinn was 17, alone, and her stomach hurt from being empty for 2 days. The last of her money was gone. She had been sleeping in the driver's seat, curled up tight, trying to be small. The town, Cadence City, looked blurry through the wet windshield. Everyone had a place. She didn't. Then she saw it, a flicker of light, not a streetlight but a neon sign in a dirty window. It was a big garage called the Crimson Spoke. The sign said "Help Wanted" in red letters. The building was huge, made of dark metal. Outside, massive motorcycles were lined up like sleeping metal animals. This was the place. Everyone whispered about it. The men inside were part of the biker club. People called them monsters. They said to stay away. Ilara's hands were shaking. She was so scared. But the fear of the men inside was not as big as the fear of another night in the cold car, of another day with no food. Desperate people do desperate things. She got out of the car. The rain soaked her thin jacket right away. She walked across the wet parking lot, her shoes making splashing sounds. Her heart was beating in her ears. She stood in front of a giant metal door. She took a deep breath and knocked. The sound was so loud it made her jump. For a long time, nothing happened. Then she heard heavy footsteps. A lock clicked. The door swung open. A man filled the doorway. He was the biggest man Ilara had ever seen. He had a thick beard and his arms were covered in tattoos. A long, pale scar ran down one side of his face, from his temple to his jaw. He looked down at her, his eyes dark and sharp. "Yeah," his voice was a low growl, like rocks grinding together. Ilara's voice was a tiny whisper. The sign, the help wanted sign." The man, who everyone called the Duke, looked her up and down. She was dripping wet, shivering, her clothes too big. "That sign's been there for months," he said. "I need a job," she said, forcing the words out. They sounded louder this time. Duke didn't move. "Where are your parents?" "I don't have any." "Where do you sleep?" Ilara looked at her wet shoes. She didn't answer. Duke stared at her for what felt like an hour. Then he asked a question she didn't expect. "You hungry?" He didn't wait for an answer. He stepped back and jerked his head. "Get in. You're letting the cold in." Ilara stepped inside. The door clanged shut behind her. The noise of the outside world disappeared. She was in a giant workshop. It was warm. A huge heater roared in the corner. The air smelled like motor oil, metal, and something else. Something good, like stew. 2 other men were there. One was under bike, only his legs showing. The other, a younger man with wild hair, was wiping his hands on a rag. They both stopped and stared at her. Duke pointed to a rickety stool by a messy desk. "Sit." He walked over to a small kitchen area and pulled a bowl from a cupboard. He ladled thick, hot stew from a pot on a hot plate. He put the bowl and a spoon in front of her. "Eat." Ilara didn't need to be told twice. She ate like she had never seen food before. It was the best thing she had ever tasted. The warmth spread from her stomach out to her fingers and toes. She didn't look up until the bowl was empty. Duke was leaning against a workbench, watching her. The other 2 men had gone back to work, but she could feel them glancing over. "Name's Duke," he said. "That's Wrench." He pointed to the older, serious-looking man under the bike. "And that's Zip." The younger one with wild hair gave a little wave. "I'm Ilara," she said softly. "Okay, Ilara, you can stay tonight. Upstairs, there's a storage room. It's got a cot and a heater. Bathrooms down the hall. It's not much, but it's dry." He led her up a metal staircase to a small room. It was filled with boxes of old parts, but in the middle was a clean cot with a blanket. A small space heater glowed orange. To Ilara, it looked like a palace. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick. "Don't thank me yet," Duke said. "You work for your keep. We'll talk in the morning." He closed the door. Ilara sat on the cot. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe. The fear and the cold were washed away by the warmth and the full belly. She slept a deep, dreamless sleep. The next morning, Duke laid out the rules. "You work, you get paid. Room and board are separate. That's for everyone. You pull your weight, you stay. You don't, you're out." Her first job was cleaning. Duke gave her a bucket, soap, and a stiff brush. Start with the bathroom, then the office floor, then you organize every tool in this garage. I want to be able to find a 10mm socket with my eyes closed. The work was hard, her back ached, her hands got raw from the soap, but she didn't complain. She scrubbed the bathroom until the tiles shone. She swept and mopped the office floor 3 times, then she faced the tool wall. It was a chaotic mess of wrenches, sockets, and screwdrivers. She started sorting, putting all the same sizes together, wiping off the grease. Hours passed, the men worked around her. Wrench was quiet and smart, figuring out engine problems like puzzles. Zip was loud and funny, always joking and moving fast. They didn't talk to her much at first, but they didn't bother her either. At the end of the day, Duke inspected her work. He walked into the bathroom, he checked the floor, he stood in front of the tool wall for a long time. He reached out, took a specific socket off a perfectly organized peg, looked at it and put it back. He turned to her. "You'll do." He pulled a wad of cash from his pocket and counted out bills. "Your pay for the work today." Ilara took the money. It felt real in her hand. "Work is work," Duke said. "You earned it." Then he gave her something else. It was a new lock for her bedroom door upstairs. "Your space is your own," he said simply. That lock was more than metal. It was a promise. It was safety. It was hers. Days turned into weeks. Ilara became part of the rhythm of the Crimson Spoke. She cleaned, she organized, she started learning the names of tools. She handed Wrench a wrench before he even asked. She learned to make the stew. The men started talking to her. Zip told her silly stories. Wrench explained how engines worked. Duke was always there, a silent, protective giant watching over everything. She realized the truth. These weren't monsters. They were just men, hard men with pasts she didn't ask about. They valued things like honesty, hard work, and loyalty. They became her strange, broken family. She had a home. Then, one Tuesday, the outside world came knocking. A woman in a sharp suit stood in the doorway. She held a clipboard. Her name was Ms. Evelyn Reed from Social Services. She looked around the garage like she smelled something bad. "I'm looking for Ilara Quinn," she said, her voice crisp. Ilara's blood went cold. She stepped out from behind a tool cabinet. "I'm Ilara." Ms. Reed gave her a tight smile. "I need to speak with you, privately." She glanced at Duke, Wrench, and Zip. "About your living situation." They went into the messy office. Ms. Reed didn't sit down. "Ilara, you are a minor. Living here with these men in this environment is not appropriate. It's not legal. There are no records, no guardianship. You're not in school." "This is better," Ilara said, her voice shaking. "I have a room, I have a job, I eat every day." "What you have is a dangerous and illegal arrangement," Ms. Reed said firmly. "My job is to place you in a safe, supervised environment. I'm here to take you to a group home. Pack your things." "No." The word wasn't loud, but it filled the room. Duke stood in the office doorway, his massive frame blocking the light. Ms. Reed stiffened. "This is a child welfare matter, sir. Step aside." Duke didn't move. He looked at Ilara, then back at the social worker. "She's not going anywhere." "This is not your decision. The law." "I know the law," Duke interrupted, his gravelly voice calm but hard. "And we'll follow it, every single rule." He walked fully into the room, making it feel smaller. "Here's the deal. You walk out that door today, you give me 1 week. In that week, I will file every piece of paper the state needs. I will register her as an official employee here with proper minor work permits. I will become her temporary legal guardian until she turns 18. She will enroll in the adult education program for her GED, all of it, on the books." Ms. Reed blinked, her pen hovering over her clipboard. "You expect me to believe you'll navigate the system for her?" Duke's dark eyes held hers. "You have my word, and around here that means something. Check back in 7 days. You'll see the paperwork. She stays here, she's safe, she's wanted, and she will be legal, or you can try to take her now." He didn't say it as a threat, just a fact. The silence from the workshop behind him was heavy. Ms. Reed heard it too. She looked at Ilara. The girl wasn't cowering. She was standing straight, looking right back at her. Ms. Reed had seen a lot of scared kids. This one wasn't scared. She was determined. 1 week, Ms. Reed said finally, tucking her clipboard under her arm. "I will be back. with a court officer if the paperwork isn't in perfect order. She gave Duke one last look and walked out, her heels clicking on the concrete. The door shut. Ilara let out a shaky breath. Duke put a heavy hand on her shoulder. "Get me a phone book," he said to Wrench. "We're calling a lawyer." The week was a blur of papers, phone calls, and appointments. Duke was true to his word. A lawyer friend of the club handled it all. Forms were filled out, notarized, and filed. Ilara was officially a part-time employee of the Crimson Spoke Garage and Custom Cycles. Duke was named her temporary guardian. She was registered for GED classes online. When Ms. Reed returned, Duke handed her a thick folder. She read through it, her expression unreadable. Finally, she looked up. "It appears to be in order." She looked at Ilara. "This is highly unusual, but it is compliant." She left, and this time the threat was gone. Ilara stayed. The club's reputation, the very thing that scared people, now acted like a shield around her. No one bothered her. She belonged. Months passed. Ilara got stronger, smarter. She learned not just to clean, but to change oil, to patch a tire, to listen to an engine's heartbeat. One evening, as they sat around the old desk eating pizza, she had an idea. "Duke," she said, What if we could do this for other kids?" He chewed slowly. "Do what?" "This," she said, waving her hand around the garage. "Give them a place, not to live maybe, but to go after school. Kids who are alone or in trouble or just lost. We could teach them how to fix things, how to use their hands, give them a job like you gave me." The garage was quiet. Wrench and Zip stopped eating. Duke stared at her. "That's a big thing you're talking about. A program, more rules, more people, more problems." "I know," Ilara said, her heart pounding. "But you taught me that work is dignity. You gave me a lock. You gave me a family. What if the Crimson Spoke could be that for more than just me?" Duke leaned back in his chair, the metal creaking. He looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the scared, hungry girl from the rain, but he also saw the strong young woman she had become. "You built this idea," he said finally. "Not me. You're a survivor, kid. You turned your damage into strength. If this is what you want to build, then we build it." And they did. The Crimson Spoke Youth Workshop started small, 2 afternoons a week, a few kids from the struggling side of town. Ilara, with Wrench and Zip helping, taught them the basics: how to hold a wrench, how to check tire pressure, how to respect the tools and the work. It was loud, it was messy, and it was beautiful. Years flowed by like oil from a fresh change. The youth program thrived. It became a real thing in the city, a place where troubled teens could earn community service hours, learn a trade, or just have a safe spot to be. Ilara got her GED. Then she took business classes at the community college. One spring day, Duke called her into the office. He was older now, his beard grayer, but still just as solid. "Sit down," he said. He pushed a stack of papers toward her. "It's time." "What is this?" "The sale papers, for the garage, for the Crimson Spoke. I'm selling it to you." Ilara's eyes went wide. "What? No, I can't." "You can," Duke said. "You've been running the youth program for years. You know the books better than I do. You know every bolt in this place. This is your home. You made it into what it is now. It should be yours." Tears filled Ilara's eyes. "I don't have that kind of money." Duke's smile was a rare, soft thing. "You've already paid for it, 1,000 times over. The price is $1, and your promise to keep the door open for the next kid who needs it." With trembling hands, Ilara signed the papers. The Crimson Spoke was hers. Now Ilara stands in the bay doors of her garage, watching the afternoon sun glow on the chrome of the bikes outside. Inside, the workshop hums with life. The roar of engines mixes with the laughter of teenagers. A group of them are gathered around an old motorcycle, listening as a young woman named Lucy explains the carburetor. Wrench, now older and slower, smiles as he watches. Zip is showing a shy boy named David how to use a torque wrench. Duke sits on a stool by the desk, a cup of coffee in his hand, watching it all. He is not the boss anymore, he is family. Ilara feels a warmth that has nothing to do with the sun. This noisy, greasy, beautiful place is her heart. The monsters the town warned her about had given her a key, a lock, and a purpose. They had been her brothers, her protectors, her fathers. She had taken their gift, and built a fortress with it, a fortress that now sheltered others. A girl with wary eyes, maybe 16, lingers by the open door, looking in but afraid to enter. Ilara sees her. She sees the hunger, the fear, the desperate hope. She walks over, just as Duke did for her on a rainy night a lifetime ago. "Hey," Ilara says, her voice gentle, "you okay?" The girl jumps a little. I saw the sign for the youth workshop." Ilara smiles. She steps back and motions inside, to the warmth, the noise, the family. "Come on in," she says. "Let's get you something to eat first." She welcomes the girl into the light, into the warmth, into the family she built. This is her home, and the door is always open. Thank you for listening. Was there ever a place everyone warned you about that turned out to be exactly what you needed? What's the most unlikely place you've found family or kindness? Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from in the comments below.